let's move on to now how to create ease in managing turbulent transitions, but also your everyday responsibilities. Defining ease, the absence of difficulty and effort, making something less serious or severe. So in this case, we're not talking about pretending that something isn't challenging, but particularly in situations such as the one we find ourselves in these days, it's a lot about how do we take out the sting? How do we make it less severe, right? Not by ignoring it, not by putting nonsensical palliative, blocks on it. No, but really also finding, as we said, ways to lighten up, right? What gets in the way of creating ease in your day-to-day, right? So ease is flowing more, and it's not just flowing activities. It's actually finding an easier way to get through the everyday, simple, easy ways to get through the everyday. What gets in the way of ease? A lot of the same things that get in the way of serenity. Obviously, they're connected. It also, what happens is we try to do too much. We go too fast, right? We try to control things outside of our sphere of influence. You've heard me repeat this a lot because it's very key. We may understand it conceptually, but all of us are beating ourselves up against that same wall, sometimes trying to control other people and other circumstances. We cannot. Not delegating or eliminating, right? Certain things. Not adjusting or pivoting when circumstances change, right? And so we keep insisting to do things the same way, when really making even slight shifts in the way we go about our lives could make a meaningful difference in how much easier it feels to be alive. And we torture ourselves. We torture ourselves with prescribed ideas, with routines, with expectations, and a lot more with regards to this. So the question when it comes to ease is, what helps you function, flow, and accomplish in the easiest way possible? Right? The idea being we're never going for perfectionism. There are moments when you really want to ascribe to excellence because something really important is at stake for you. You've decided that it's a very high priority, but there are other times that it's just good enough to do it good enough, right? So the objective then is to manage yourself and your responsibilities with the grace of minimum effort, resources, and stress. And I say grace because it's one of my favorite words. And there's something about that also respects being gentle in the moment with yourself and with the things around you. So how do you do this, right? As always, we say, be clear on your priorities and be clear on the why behind. Not just what you decided is important at this moment, but really why, and challenging that. Connect with your value and strength. We mentioned a little bit of this in Serenity, but a lot of the times what happens is that when we get stressed, when we complicate things, when we get overwhelmed, we forget the things that we're good at. We just focus on what's lacking. We just focus on what I'm not doing, what I'm not getting, what I'm not achieving. And thereby we disconnect from our power source, making us that much more insecure, that much more confused, that much more frustrated. Another beautiful quote by Tyler Knott Gregson, poet, author, and photographer. Another one of my favorites. I'm going to drown you with these today. He says, "Promise me you will not spend so much time treading water and trying to keep your head above the waves that you truly forget how much you have always loved to swim." And I think that's just a wonderful way of saying that sometimes we're flailing when actually right next to us, or if we just shift a little bit, we can tap into a strength we've always had that can make it that much easier for us in that moment, right? So again, identify tasks in regards to ease, things that you can limit, eliminate, or delegate. This is always key. It's about creating a general sense of serenity, but it's also about making things flow easier for you in terms of ease in the everyday. Clear up headspace. I heard this wonderful quote in an interview I was watching on television in New York City years ago. And I don't remember what it was about. I don't remember who this man was. I think he was just someone on the street, but he said something brilliant. He said, "Be careful who you let rent space in your head." And this is really, really brilliant because our minds can only hold so much. And especially things that come also with their own emotions. So they're not just thoughts, they're thoughts plus emotions. All of that taps into resources. So when you see that you are constantly banging your head against a task, a situation, a relationship, things that are just taking up too much space in your head, it's time to clean up, right? And again, one of those things may be limiting, eliminating, or delegating, but another one of those things may be having an important conversation, right? A thoughtful conversation before you explode, right? Or you burn out. So I think this is very important. And along the lines of that too is, create a working space that relieves and inspires you. Especially now these days, some people have been used to working from home quite a bit. For others, it's a very new task. And still for others who had experience on that before, now are doing it in a different way. And so the critical thing is make it work for you. I'm child and daughter of architects. So this has been inculcated in me for many years, this idea that your space is critical. It impacts your well-being. It impacts your emotions. It impacts your perspective. And so if you'll see behind us, right, I have my posters. I always have this. This is from my beautiful Monica, who created this for me. And so we create, and if you can't see ahead of me, but it's full of photos and invitations and little souvenirs from everything that we've done. So create your space that it works for you. Make sure there's good light. If you are having trouble and feeling overwhelmed with the fact that everything feels like a workspace, then limit your work engagements to a particular area. And then, make sure that when you're connecting with other people, maybe you're going somewhere else, or the opposite. Maybe you love being all over the place and having that flexibility. So that's just something to consider, because again, our environments have a massive influence on how we're feeling. Slow down. Remember this. I have to say this to myself a lot because I'm the Duracell bunny all the time. That's what my husband calls me. Slow down, and this idea you can go, as Rich Lippman, famous coach, says, you can go slower than you've ever gone, but go deeper to get better and more effective results than you've ever gotten, which I think is a wonderful thing. Questions that come around rushing. And you've heard me talk about how rushing is so detrimental, especially from the first moments in the morning where it spikes our cortisol and other stress hormones. And it just makes it harder to come down from that stress for the rest of the day. But the question is, why do we rush so much? Where are we going? People say, I've got so much to do. I don't know anyone who doesn't have too much to do. Right? But oftentimes when we rush like crazy, you can do the same things thoughtfully, a little bit slower, but you'll actually get them done better. When we rush, we just piss ourselves off. We make more mistakes, right? And maybe we just, complicate things for the people around us, not to mention that energy just makes everybody crazy. Be mindful, one of the things that I learned from this beautiful course by Stephanie Bennett Voigt from De Leon, she says, even the tasks you don't like maybe like washing dishes, if you go through all these tasks, stressed out, annoyed, I have to do this, right? Then all it becomes over and over again is frustration. And more time during the day is built on frustration versus saying, look, okay, I got to do the dishes. It's part of taking care of our home. I'm an adult. I got to do that. Even kids do that. So while I do it, let me just be in it. Let me do it slowly. Let me take care of it, even if I really don't want to. And the thing is, it actually makes you enjoy it more. Crazy, but true. Other things about slowing down. There's a beautiful quote she says is, imagine if you knew that taking a little bit more time, or even much more time towards a particular goal that you have would actually get you greater and more glorious results. Would you take it? As we spoke in the previous talk, we somehow think often that, spending more time, more effort, more stress, more energy on something guarantees better results. And that's not true at all. That's not true at all. And so if you knew that you would get better results on something really important to you, but you knew that that would require taking some more time, would you do it? I think most of us would say yes. It's just that we don't have that guarantee. But still, it makes you wonder sometimes, right? Sometimes we've been waiting for that job, waiting for that opportunity. And then you look in retrospect and you say, actually, thank God that didn't come earlier, because maybe I wasn't ready. Maybe I had other stuff going on, right? So it's how we interpret our world. And there's a beautiful garden garden best practice or saying that says, you know, slow, flow, grow, and glow, again, from one of Stephanie's courses, which I think is wonderful. When you plant plants in the garden, oftentimes what happens at first is they're going very slowly, right? They creep, they creep, they creep. And then they start to flow a little, right? They start to move. You can see that they're getting out there. And then they start to grow. And at the end, they're glowing, right? If they make it, if their roots really hit, then they're absolutely brilliant. And so if we consider that metaphor for ourselves, the idea also becomes maybe we don't have to be beating ourselves up so much to go so fast. Again, solitude is really critical for ease. In this case, we're talking about solitude, not just to connect with yourself and what you're feeling and what you're thinking, but also to take time to organize better your work. And it doesn't have to be more than 5 minutes or 10 minutes, you know, but think about it as any practice. You just launch into it in a rush, even if you've had things written down. It's like we can't catch our breaths, but sometimes taking a moment and just saying, all right, what comes first? What comes second? Remember your rule of 3 from, you know, from last week. What are the top 3 things that I really need to do today? What's this week? What are the most important things for me to get done this week in general? What are the things to look out for, right? So just a couple of questions can help you reflect and really feel more secure about everything you have in front of you to take care of. A couple of other things, you know, understand this idea that challenges do make us grow. They make us stronger. It's not, you know, the famous saying, what doesn't kill you make you stronger? Sure. But it's also the idea of really understanding that in the moment. As we said, a lot of the times we just get so frustrated with what's hard, and that's understandable, that's human, but also just leaving a little bit of space to understand that those things will also somehow benefit us in the future if we let them. I've had a lot of setbacks, a lot of failures, a lot of disappointments that looking back, I thought, oh my God, thank God that happened, because it actually made me prepare or have to recover in ways that then served me perfectly for another future situation. There's a beautiful saying, this is now from the Mulan film from Disney, but I remembered it because it reminds me so much of our hibiscus flowers in the garden. Poor things, they are incredible, but they're always dying. And it says, the flower that blooms in adversity is the most beautiful one. Now, our garden is not a place of adversity, I'm happy to say. But for some reason, I think we planted them in the crap position without enough sun. So the poor things are spending the whole year like nearly getting down to little sticks. And then the funny thing is summer comes and they have the most brilliant, beautiful flowers. I still don't know how they're surviving. And one has flowers of 2 different colors that I have no idea how that's possible. So it works in nature and in life. Actively engage for help. Don't do it all on your own. Why would you? We don't come into this world having all the skills and all the knowledge for everything that we need, because that would be stupidly boring. And what would we do with life, right? The idea is we all come with some strengths, other weaknesses, no problem. But when we insist always, I have to do it all on my own, we're just wasting our time and energy, right? One thing is trying something new and trying to do it yourself because you're fascinated by it, like me trying to do some home improvement projects to a degree. Other thing is when you're just banging your head again against that wall because you believe that you have to do it and that if you don't get help for it, you're somehow weak. It's just ridiculous. I mean, it's a strength looking for intelligent help, not the opposite. It's not a weakness, right? And it'll cut you corners in a really great way. It'll make things faster for you. And of course, as you know, big fan, I always keep saying rest, play, enjoy, find healthy disconnect. I say this all the time to you because I'm really saying it to myself too, because I'm sometimes not the greatest at this, but I'm getting better. But it doesn't have to be complicated, right? It can just be little things.